The U.S. has confirmed a tariff cut to 15% on key South Korean imports, including automobiles, aircraft, and lumber, retroactive to November 1st. E-commerce giant Coupang now faces a class action lawsuit over its massive data leak. Online communities and major law firms are now taking legal action for compensation. The head of the Korea office of OpenAI held a press conference here in Seoul, where the firm unveiled its plans and ambitions to promote partnerships with local firms to facilitate AI transformation. The new tariff arrangement between South Korea and the U.S. has legally taken effect, with Washington now confirming retroactive tariff adjustments for Korean automobiles. Our Kim Do-yeon starts us off.
The revised tariff structure for South Korean exports to the United States has been officially codified. The U.S. Federal Register published the implementation notice for the U.S.-Korea Strategic Trade and Investment Deal on Wednesday, with the notice coming into effect on Thursday. Under the regulations, Korean automobiles and auto parts have a tariff rate of 15%. That rate is applied retroactively to November 1st. For other sectors, including timber and civil aircraft components, the effective date is November 14th, with aviation parts largely exempted from the new levies. The notice marks the formal execution of the agreement, finalizing the exchange of Seoul's pledged $350 billion investment for tariff stability. The Federal Register also read that the two countries' leaders have declared a new chapter in the US-ROK alliance, describing it as the linchpin for peace, security, and prosperity on the Korean Peninsula and the Indo-Pacific region. While this deal provides clarity for Korean industries, the U.S. administration is digging in on its broader tariff policy. At an event in New York on Wednesday, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent addressed the possibility of the Supreme Court striking down the president's use of emergency powers, declaring that even if the court rules against them, the tariffs will remain. He said the Treasury is prepared to pivot to alternative trade statutes such as Section 301 or 232 to recreate the identical tariff structure, confirming the administration views this tariff regime as permanent. Despite these complexities, President Trump last week continued to pitch the tariffs as substitute for income tax.
But we'll be cutting income tax. Could be almost completely cutting it because the money we're taking in is going to be so large.
However, legal analysts note that unlike emergency orders, standard trade laws typically require months of investigation, and that this could create a regulatory vacuum if Supreme Court issues an abrupt ruling. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung today hosted dozens of pioneers in the manufacturing industry, whom he called heroes who have made the country what it is today. Yoon Jung-min reports.
The nation's industrial and economic capacity is the foundation of its success in democracy and industrialization. That was President Lee Jae-myung as he celebrated Trade Day on Thursday, saying that it feels that Korea's global status is elevated when he travels outside the country.
지금의 이런 민주주의든 문화 역량이든 다 이 경제력에서 나오는 거죠. 그리고 이 경제력을 뒷받침하는 엄청난 과학기술 역량, 그다음에 제조 역량, 산업 역량 이런 것들이 우리가 가진 힘 그 자체입니다.
President Lee, who himself was a factory worker, met some 90 workers at the Blue House Yeongbin-gwan guest house, pioneers in the manufacturing business who own decades of field experience in areas like automobiles, shipbuilding, and textiles.
여러 분야에서 정말 열심히 일하신 산업 역군이라고 불리는 분들이 많이 와 계십니다. 이 나라를 위대하게 만든 영웅들이죠.
He also vowed to make workplaces safer to minimize fatal accidents, saying Korea's industrial accident rate is higher than that of other developed countries, and there's a tendency for such accidents to take place more frequently at smaller firms.
우리 노동자들의 피땀으로 대한민국을 오늘 이 자리까지 끌어왔지만 이제 앞으로 갈 길은 조금은 더 선진화돼야 되겠다. 그런 생각이 들어요. 일하다 죽는 일은 좀 최소화하고.
President Lee concluded his remarks by vowing to make a society where opportunities are shared on a fair basis and appropriate reward is guaranteed for one's contribution. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
As a public outrage continues over e-commerce giant Coupang's data leak, class action lawsuits have emerged. With the government cautioning over secondary harm, vendors on the platform also look to be affected by the breach. An Sung-jin has the details.
A massive wave of class action lawsuits is emerging in the wake of Coupang's personal data leak. More than 30 online communities have been created on major portals to organize damage compensation lawsuits against the e-commerce giant. The accumulated members of these major online communities exceed 500,000 people. As of Thursday, the largest lawsuit community is lingering at the 140,000 member threshold. With the data breach estimated at around 33.7 million cases, the number of those joining is expected to rise. Major law firms have also begun actively recruiting plaintiffs, indicating that legal action is rapidly expanding beyond online communities. Compensation in similar privacy breach cases has often been relatively small, at around 100,000 won or around $68 US. However, the unprecedented scale of this incident is fueling action for stronger legal accountability.
Historically, this kind of class action lawsuits doesn't benefit the individuals that much. But I think that the symbolic value is there, that this kind of breaches will gather more consumer interest and also more active action, resulting in more class action lawsuits.
On Monday, the first complaint asking for damage compensation from Coupang was officially filed with the Seoul Central District Court by a law firm on behalf of 14 Coupang users, seeking 200,000 won or $136 each. Another issue is emerging following public outrage over the data leak. As highly sensitive personal information has been stolen, more consumers began suspending purchases or deleting their Coupang accounts entirely, which inevitably affects marketplace sellers. 3/4 of Coupang's marketplace vendors are composed of small enterprises, and concerns have arisen that this movement could severely impact their livelihoods, with some saying that orders have dropped since the data leak. Growing reports of abnormal login attempts, unexpected overseas payment approval alerts, and smishing texts continue to increase consumer anxiety as users fear secondary offenses. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Artificial intelligence, or AI, has been one of the most widely recognized keywords in recent years. The term AI gained even greater attention when OpenAI released its large language model ChatGPT 3 years ago. As we approach the end of 2025, we have our business correspondent Park Jun-han here in the studio to walk us through how AI is being used by individuals and companies and how these technological developments are affecting our daily lives. Welcome back, Jun-han.
It's good to be back, Tami.
So, Jun-han, as we all know, I'm sure many people are aware of AI. Now, with the large language models like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini being introduced, how widely is AI being used by Koreans, including us?
Right, that's right, Tami. So I actually went to OpenAI's press briefing today, and the company confirmed me that South Korea has the highest number of paid ChatGPT subscribers per capita in the world. Also, a data research center here estimates that there are over 21 million monthly active users of ChatGPT in Korea. An interesting thing is the way people in South Korea use ChatGPT. It is slightly different from what other global users use it for. Globally, about 29% of ChatGPT users rely on it for practical guidance, such as fitness, health, daily tips, and creative ideas. Another 24% use it primarily for seeking information, showing its growing role as a decision support tool in everyday life. But in South Korea, 29% of users use ChatGPT for work-related writing and communication tasks, such as translation, document drafting, and email writing, while 21% use it for practical guidance on how to perform specific tasks. A professor at the AI Research Institute says the reason AI is so popular in South Korea is that people feel both the trend and the urgency, a reaction largely driven by the fear of being left behind. Let's take a listen to what he had to say about it.
When we talk about this trend, part of it comes from the fact that AI has essentially become a new form of entertainment and exploration, drawing more people in. But at the same time, as the technology improves, people are realizing that AI can now take on a certain level of work, writing, research, even basic emotional support, which creates a sense of pressure. Think about students, professors, marketers. There's a growing concern that not using it might put you at a disadvantage.
Now, we all know how AI is being used globally. Then how is AI being used at the corporate level?
Right. As you just mentioned, Dami, companies and startups are increasingly adopting AI's tools in their operations. For example, one speaker at today's press briefing said that using AI is now a matter of survival rather than choice, because it is fundamentally transforming the way people work. Let's take a listen to what speakers had to say about using AI to enhance their work efficiency.
Our employees built an internal gallery where they could share prompts and learn from each other's successes and failures. And within just 100 days, it generated over 1,000 use cases, a clear sign that AI is becoming a true colleague in their daily work.
AI-powered systems can now handle everything from reservation changes to post-service feedback, enabling a fully end-to-end support experience that improves customer satisfaction and boosts call center efficiency.
So it seems AI is boosting productivity at the both individual and corporate levels. And Chuna, looking ahead over the next few years or even decades, what do experts say about the future of AI here in South Korea?
Right. So the professor I talked with, he said he's very optimistic about the future of AI, which is in Korea. And he emphasized that it will be important and ultimately beneficial to develop AI models of the people, by the people, and for the people. Let's take a listen.
South Korea is one of the only countries in the world that doesn't even measure illiteracy, because, for all practical purposes, it has almost none. The population is highly educated, and the country has the highest level of IT proficiency anywhere.
The professor also said that AI models using Korean significantly reduce hallucination, which refers to the AI generating incorrect or fabricated information.
When AI thinks and speaks in one language, say English or Chinese, and then translates that into Korean, hallucination becomes inevitable. But with indigenous AI models that use Korean, we finally secure a fully controllable solution. On top of that foundation, we can apply Korea's unique strengths, improving people's quality of life and ultimately accumulating national wealth.
Something to keep in mind when using AI and also developing AI. Chunan, thanks for coming in tonight.
Always a pleasure, Dami.
President Lee Jae-myung has urged the South Korea's political community to work toward what he calls just integration. Speaking at a weekly meeting with his top aides on Thursday, he noted that Wednesday marked 1 year since former President Yoon Suk-yeol's declaration of a martial law, a moment he described as one of the gravest crises to South Korea's constitutional order, ultimately overcome by the public's courage and solidarity. President Lee also stressed that proper integration must be built on reflection and accountability, underscoring his commitment to holding those involved in the martial law declaration responsible. South Korea says it is not considering linking the release of its citizens detained in North Korea with the repatriation of unconverted long-term prisoners here, but it will address each of them. Our Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
The South Korean government is planning to repatriate unconverted long-term North Korean prisoners of war on humanitarian grounds and is reviewing related measures. But it is not going to happen via a swap with South Korean detainees held by the regime. This is according to a Unification Ministry statement on Thursday, which followed an NK News report that cited Seoul's National Security Advisor and stated that Seoul was mulling linking the two issues. There are up to 6 elderly North Koreans here who have yet to renounce their communist beliefs. And one of them, Anak-sup, who is in his 90s, recently called for repatriation to the north. The Unification Ministry said it recognizes the urgent need to resolve the detainee issue and that it was trying to address it through dialogue with the north.
Currently, a total of 6 South Korean nationals are known to have been detained by the regime between 2013 and 2016. 3 missionaries, Kim Jong-uk, Kim Guk-gi, and Chae Chun-gil, and 3 North Korean defectors. When inter-Korean dialogue was taking place, the South raised the issue with the North multiple times. For example, during the inter-Korean high-level talks held in June 2018, the then unification minister brought the matter up, and North Korea's chief delegate said that related agencies were thoroughly reviewing it. The ministry said it is in regular contact with the families of the detainees, noting that in late September, Unification Minister Chung Dong-young met with the missionaries' families. International cooperation is underway as well. One expert says there is little possibility of resolving the issue promptly, as Pyongyang has officially pronounced that the 2 Koreas are 2 hostile states, although it is meaningful to constantly raise the issue.
Keeping the detainee issue in the public spotlight can put pressure on North Korea. Even though it's hard for North Korea to respond positively right now, this attention might make them look at the issue again. And if it helps reopen inter-Korean talks, the detainee issue could become one of the first topics on the agenda.
For now, the detainees' whereabouts and whether they are alive or not remain completely unknown. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
South Korea is positioning digital innovation at the center of its disaster response policy and inviting the world to join. The Interior Ministry brought together diplomats to share how technology is reshaping public services, such as climate resilience. Our Moon Hae-ryun follows this report.
The Ministry of the Interior and Safety hosted a year-end luncheon and policy briefing on Thursday, with diplomatic representatives from 93 countries in attendance, and shared the administration's progress over its 6 months in office. Minister Yoon Ho-jung highlighted the importance of sharing experiences and achievements within the international community for policy cooperation. He went on to outline Korea's approach with 3 key values.
Based on the values of participation, solidarity, and innovation, we are opening a new future built on democratic governance, AI technology, and the pillars of balance and inclusion.
The challenges Korea is working to address, from climate risks to digital transformation, are issues shared by countries around the world, making innovation a common mission.
I had the chance, for example, recently, to give you an example, to visit K-Water. And K-Water actually showed us what they are doing, building digital twins and using AI to create models of a flood situation. And that's something that is also very interesting for us in Luxembourg, because we're also prone to flood disasters.
At the Han River Flood Control Office located in Seoul, analysts use technology such as artificial intelligence and digital twins to help carry out its missions to track and manage flooding. As one of the 4 flood control centers around the country, it uses digital twin technology to forecast situations around the country without actually visiting the site. Specific scenarios can be replicated in a digital format for more than 3,000 rivers across the country, meaning that flooding risk management can take place on a national scale without needing observation stations at each location. Another advantage of having a digital system is that analysts are able to not only access multiple sources of data, but they are also able to access them all at once. With AI and data becoming the standard for efficient public service, joint policy collaboration is increasingly vital to keep pace with rapid technological and environmental changes. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
Following talks between Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. emissaries for an end to the war in Ukraine, NATO's foreign ministers gathered in Brussels on Wednesday, where leaders accused Putin for showing no willingness to end the war. Ian Jin has the details.
Almost all of NATO's foreign ministers gathered in Brussels on Wednesday, where European representatives reaffirmed their support for Ukraine. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said that while it was good that peace talks to end the war in Ukraine were ongoing, it remains unknown when those talks will end, and that it was necessary to make sure Ukraine was in the strongest possible position, not only to keep fighting against the Russians, but to be able to push for peace talks on their terms. This came a day after Ukraine peace talks were held between the United States and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Moscow called the 5-hour discussion useful, but said that no compromises were found. NATO foreign ministers accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of showing no willingness to pursue peace in Ukraine as they continue to stand together in support of Ukraine.
We, too, welcome all talks aimed at ending this war. However, at this point in time, we see no serious willingness on the Russian side to enter into negotiations, and that is why we must be clear about where we stand. We stand firmly alongside Ukraine.
Meanwhile, also on Wednesday, Belgium spoke out against the European Commission plan to use frozen Russian assets to aid Ukraine. The board of the European Commission approved a potential reparations loan for Ukraine to address its financing needs for the next 2 years. Ukraine's budget and military needs for 2026 and 2027 are estimated to total around $150 billion. Most EU states support the plan, but Belgian Foreign Minister Maxime Prévost spoke out against it, fearing it would bear the risk of potentially disastrous consequences from Russia alone, and that the European Commission's proposals did not address those concerns.
It is not acceptable to use the money and leave us alone facing the risks. The proposed reparations loan is clearly not a preferred choice. In the event member states wish to go in that direction, we demand that the risks Belgium is facing as a result of this scheme are fully covered. This is no unreasonable request. This is simply fairness.
While European leaders are set to hold another summit on December 18th, U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner invited the Secretary of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council Rustem Umerov to a meeting in Miami on Thursday, which has been agreed to. Ian-jin, Arirang News.
The first snow has fallen in center areas, including Seoul, from this afternoon. A preliminary warning for heavy snow has been issued for the northeastern parts of Gyeonggi-do province and northern parts of Gangwon-do province. Up to 8 centimeters of snow is expected around these areas. There's a strong cold spell around the country as cold air from minus 35 degrees Celsius came down from the north. Extreme cold of around minus 10 degrees was seen this morning. It will be cold tomorrow morning at minus 6 degrees in Seoul. Cold spells will start to ease off from Saturday afternoon. The freezing weather will continue tomorrow morning with Chuncheon at minus 10 degrees, Daegu and Gyeongju at minus 3 degrees. Daily highs will rise up to 3 degrees in Seoul and Chuncheon, 7 degrees in Gwangju and Daegu. From Saturday afternoon, light rain is forecast around the central regions until the nighttime. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.